Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News and our weekly crypto wrap up with our head of written research, Michael. How are you, Michael?
Good, good. How are you?
Pretty good. Now, today, guys, we're going to rapid fire through a few projects that have got good fundamentals because we're starting to see glimpses that this kind of stuff is coming back into favor. And, Michael and the team continue to pump out great research on what we think are good fundamental projects daily. But it sort of feels like the tide is turning and people are getting a bit sick of meme coins and pump and dumps and just stuff like Mantra that we're talking about before we jumped on. That's done 100x, and I think you covered it half a dozen times in last year, and you could have got it in at any of that point. It's up 100x, so there's still good projects that are doing huge things. And it's good to see that fundamentals might be coming back into favor because the reality is that's where the VC and smart money looks. They're not looking to pump and dump memes. So, what are your thoughts on all this, Michael?
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy just the sentiment that's going on. And it has fundamentally changed the market because, now you see people talking about we may not get a full blown alt season. And for those that are around, have been around for multiple cycles, when we say the word alt season, we mean just like you could throw a dart at a dartboard and it will go up. Um,
Yeah.
and that's what everyone's kind of like banking on. And they're getting into these little micro caps thinking, well, everything's going to rip. So I just want to rip bigger than everything else. But I think the market's so big now that maybe that the alt cycle that we get will be fundamentally good projects, not just like this tomfoolery that we've got going on now.
Yes. And we're seeing it in some of the messages that you get from people that are way too heavy alts that haven't followed our formula for the longest time now. It's been heavy in Bitcoin, heavy in blue chips, and then have your risk portfolio as your more speculative. It's not going to even hurt you if it goes to zero type of thing. And a lot of people, and it's not too late to restructure it because I think Bitcoin can still run a lot further this cycle. But yeah, where do you want to start, Michael?
I'll share my screen and we'll touch on like some of the main events which sort of led to my thought processes here. When that wants to share. Yeah, so we can see that Bitcoin is actually just sort of hovering in this range right here, and it doesn't seem to move whether it's good news or bad news. It's just sort of just stuck, just sitting here, which shows that it's got strength, but also at the same time, it's become a really large asset now where it's going to take a fair bit to move it. And so we've had some craziness that's happened over this last weekend. And so I'll touch on some of these like events that have just taken place. But there was a sort of celebrity meme coin rug, I guess you could say. And it was with this coin Libre. Now this was another one of these like meme coin sort of like pump fund type sort of launches. And effectively what it was is that it actually did get promoted by, when my screen wants to load here, it did actually get promoted by the president of Argentina. He did actually get out there and tweet the contract code and say, we're getting behind this. This is going to help small businesses. And then, shortly thereafter, boom, rugged. And absolutely threw it. I think this went up to like a 5 billion market cap and then just absolutely got decimated. And so then he's gone and quickly deleted that tweet. And then it's come out that this bloke here was kind of the guy in his ear saying that, we're going to do all these amazing things. And effectively was interviewed by a guy on YouTube named CoffeeZilla, where he admits that he's sitting on $100 million right now and also admits that he was involved in the Melania rug. And trying to justify his actions, I guess, a little bit. So just craziness has happened.
Yeah, for those that don't know, CoffeeZilla does great work exposing scams and doing that on-chain analysis. But this is just another example of like, as people are talking about what happened with Trump and then Melania, why on earth are these people that are fairly well off playing this game and rugging their followers and giving crypto this bad name of places that seem to be very pro crypto? So again, to me, there's something that still doesn't add up here, and we can't get to the bottom of unless these people aren't just overthinking and getting caught up in the excitement and whatnot. And maybe it's their first cycle. You never know with human psychology, but I think there's something more to this that we still don't know.
It seems like there's this inner group as well. Like this guy was pretty young. Like, how do you get in the ear of the Argentinian president? So it's like there's a definite cohort group here of people who are, pre-orchestrating this. And this is kind of what we've seen is that the cycle has been dominated by meme coins, and everyone's trying to get in at, 30K FDV and then trying to sell at the top, but really everyone's just getting chopped up to pieces and it's leaving a bad taste in a lot of traders' mouths.
Yeah.
So I guess what this has led my thought process towards is like, let's talk a bit about what we're doing here. So we obviously do a lot of research, and I'm privileged enough where I get to do this all day, every day, and just look at projects and look at things that are happening and looking at things with fundamentals. And I think I said this last week. I don't trade meme coins. I think I've held one meme coin once. It's just not, and I'm not saying don't do it. Like if that's what you want to do, go for it. But that's not my strategy. My strategy is fundamental analysis. So I'm not even much of a trader. I consider myself an investor. So I'll research things and then I'll sit on them. And then when I find that there's something else that I want to move to, I'll move to that. But it's the constant jumping in and out of like trying to chase ghosts is what's just going to like eat away your capital, and you end up blowing up your account. And we just see it time and time and time again. And so I just want to like briefly touch on like fundamentals and projects with fundamentals. And before I go to Solana, I think the main thing that you want to be here is like what you just said, Alex, is that like Bitcoin should be the cornerstone of your investing portfolio in cryptocurrencies. And if it's not, you're asking for punishment. So I don't know how like to say it nicely, but if you're here and you're just like throwing all of your money into low cap or micro cap projects or meme coins, you're literally just playing with fire. And yes, for every one story of somebody who's going to make $1 gazillion, there's going to be 1 million other people are going to lose everything. And we've seen it over and over and over again. Yeah. And so Bitcoin and Ethereum is where I've got the majority of my portfolio stuck in those two.
What about XRP just slightly creeping its way to 3, Michael? Are you on the side that this is just basically almost become a meme coin? Or I've spoken about how with the radical restructuring of the US tax system and financial system, maybe there is a chance that they're going to use some of this software by the XRP or the Stellars of the world that have been trying to make something newer for the banks and financial institutions to use. So where do you fall on that debate?
I've got some bad sounds. Hopefully you can hear me okay. But I think for me, I don't understand it. And so I'll put my hand up right here. I've missed this XRP pump. I did not get involved. I was not a believer. I'll put my hand up and admit it that I absolutely did not see this coming. But you're right. Like it just seems like, and you see it in polls now as well when people talk about what are you the most bullish on, and there's just this like underground current of just this XRP holders that are super, super vocal and bullish, and they've done very well. And like if you're an XRP holder, I don't hate your project. Like all power to you. Like congratulations. But I didn't see it. I didn't see what was coming, and I didn't see the fundamental analysis. But you can't ignore what's happening here. Like it's institutionalized. It absolutely is.
Mm. Yep.
All right. Well, let's just touch on like a little bit there. So with all of the meme coinery that's been going on, Solana is now the ugly duckling, and so everyone is hating on Solana. You can see sentiment right now. Everyone's like pretty angry at Solana, and this is reflective of the price. And I think our all-time high here was about $280. But if we're talking about real chains with real activity and real users, for those that have been around for a while, this has happened before. And Solana has been through much worse than this. And I'll admit, again, just like XRP, I was slow to adopt Solana because I just didn't love the idea that is it decentralized finance or is it just open finance? Is it just open to anybody, but it's still centralized, but it doesn't have gatekeepers and KYC protocols, or is it actually DeFi and decentralized finance? And I think Solana has tried to like distance itself from that sort of centralized narrative, but there are real projects building on Solana with real fundamentals. It's got huge volumes. It's being used on a daily basis. Visa, MasterCard, stablecoins, everything else. And so for me, I see this as a screaming buy opportunity. Solana is my third biggest position after Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I've been loading up my bags at this level.
Yeah, and if you didn't watch that Solana ecosystem video that we did with Jason, that was brilliant. And as you say, I think I said at the time that when the pump.fun, the live streams were just getting out of control wild, that was maybe an intermediary kind of top because of so much money rushing in to buy memes, and that's kind of topped out. So now it's kind of like, well, what's the next chapter for the Sol ecosystem?
Yep, exactly. And so if we're talking about like building out our portfolio based on fundamentals, I would say you've got your Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum in Solana. And if you're an XRP holder, same. Like you're institutionalized type sort of token. And that's sort of be the core thesis of your bucket. And then the next sort of section, keeping in mind, this is like, I'm talking this is 70, 80, maybe even 90% of my portfolio just sitting right here, depending on the day. But from there, you can start to get more opinionated and start to get more interested in sort of these like mid-cap good projects that that you personally feel inclined to invest towards, or because you like the community, or because you like the tech, or whatever it might be doing. And you can't get involved in every single one of them because you're just going to end up holding 30 or 40 different tokens. And so you've got to make decisions from here on out. And so for me, my next group, and I'll show you my next group, and then I'll show you what some alternatives are from the next group, which could be interesting as well. But you've got to go and talk about stuff like Chainlink. I mean, Chainlink is pretty institutionalized itself. Nearly every blockchain is using it, or will use one of its products that's coming. It's got the interoperability layer. It's got real world assets written all over it. They're connected to everybody. And you see on every single panel and in every single protocol, they're doing some sort of deal with Chainlink. And so for me, I've got a fairly decent position in Chainlink. I do think that it's boring. And not much happens, and it always is really slow to move. But fundamentally, it's done well for me, and I continue to maintain my position in Chainlink. Even when I've wanted to jump around into other things, I've always tried to maintain some sort of exposure there.
Yeah. And when I hear about everything we keep talking about how it's becoming a mature asset class to invest in, it kind of reminds me of a good example for people at home might be if you think gold's going to go up, then you own gold. But then people go, oh, well, should I, use leverage and then you can get wiped out? Or should I start to look at gold miners? And then, yeah, the best gold miners do well. But then people go, oh, well, what are the penny stocks in the gold miners? And then it comes down to what's happening now. Unless you've got some edge and doing hundreds of hours of research, you're not going to outperform all the people that are, and the AI and all the on-chain data and that. So it's the same in any sort of industry or sector, or with investing in general. You've got to know why you've got an edge. If you think something's going to go up 10 or 100 fold, why 10 or 100 times more capital going to flow into that coin in the future versus now, and all that thought process. Yeah.
100%. And I'll rapid fire through these. I've got about 8 or 10 more. And so I'll rapid fire through them and give like maybe one line of commentary on why I personally am bullish on it. And I'll just keep in mind here, I know that there's massive communities that will have different insights to me. But again, keeping in mind, you've got your Bitcoin, your Ethereum, your Solana. That's kind of like the core bedrock of my portfolio. Yeah. And this is where I sort of spray and pray across different projects. And so for me, I like Polkadot. I think that Polkadot is what Ethereum should have been. If you can imagine Ethereum, except all of the L2s all work with each other perfectly and they have scaled the L1, that's Polkadot. They recently stress tested the network and they spammed it to see exactly what it was capable of. Came up with 143K TPS off of only 23% of its capacity, and fees did not spike. And this was done on a real chain with real value. So like this tech is outrageous and people fade it for whatever reason. I think mostly because like it was too late in the last cycle when people only ever lost money on it. But for me, best tech going around as far as like smart contract interoperability.
Yeah, and I like that analogy you gave about how we've got all these Ethereum layer 2s, but they're not all interoperable yet, whereas Polkadot kind of went the other way around and saying we're going to do it all one way initially and it's all going to be interoperable. And I think maybe you can argue Ethereum needs to go that way because they're a little bit lost in that roadmap of what's coming next and exactly how they're going to scale.
Yep. Super controversial on this one because it got absolutely destroyed at TGE, but the internet computer, I would love for this to be a thing. So for those that don't know, the internet computer tries to take, instead of just having blockchain working on the back end and you have like a normal Web 2 interface on the front end, these guys trying to put everything on chain. So you even host your whole website on chain. And the other knock on it, I guess, is that to actually run the network, you have to effectively be a data center. So this is a decentralized network of data centers that run this thing. And it means that you don't need AWS or Google Cloud. Your whole website can actually run completely and 100% on chain. And so I would love for the internet computer to be something because they're already dabbling around with AI running on chain. The little, I guess, cypherpunk part of my brain loves the idea that this could become something. And I do think that it's very, very clean tech, but it's, not very, hasn't really got much mind share, but, really interesting project.
As you say, I think it launched at a huge, fully diluted in the billions, and then fell 99%, and that leaves a bad taste in people's mouths, developers' mouths. They see their treasuries fall, and it's just kind of struggled to get anywhere since then. Yeah.
Yep. But very interesting tech and very interesting take on what they're trying to achieve. So next off, I think Sui is one that I've got a big position in. What Solana is trying to do to Ethereum, I think Sui is trying to do to Solana. It's trying to take off that market share. I do think it's got the most interest of all of the other smart contract platforms for this cycle. And so I do hold a position in Sui. Whether or not it does actually become, that top tier elite institutionalized project, we'll see. But I do think that it's got like a lot of attention and the tech is solid. Like I think there's a lot of people building on Sui.
For sure.
Rapid fire, well. Moving on. We mentioned this at the start, but Mantra Om at the moment is really interesting and it's absolutely ripping. Like I said, we spoke about this quite a long time ago when it was, only a few cents, and you can just see this chart here. Like it's, this is the last 3 months. Look at over the last year, like it's been a vertical line. And I think this has mostly been because of the regulatory landscape. I know that they had quite large backing out of the Middle East, and now they're really pushing into the US. And so the real world asset play, I think, is very interesting.
And you can see they're interesting with that big spike around the time of the election with Trump and the US going very pro crypto. And as you say, that's amazing. I can't believe that was 2 cents at the end of 2023. And you mentioned it half a dozen times, I think, last year, and it's done 100x wild stuff. So well done to anyone that got on Mantra.
Stacks is another one you can't go past. I think the number one Bitcoin L2, I think Bitcoin DeFi is going to be massive. I know you're super bullish on this as well, Alex. Bitcoin's going to eat the world. And so anyone that provides infrastructure around that in a decentralized, permissionless type of way is only going to benefit from that. So I've got a position in Stacks. I'm super bullish on Stacks. I think how could you not be at this stage?
Yeah, and they've definitely started to address a few of those issues, that disconnect between the community and the developers and a bit of the direction. So it's good to see they're addressing those issues, and obviously price and the infrastructure plays and the meme coins have all been beat up badly. But I don't think that this is dead, or I think it can really become a contender still to Sol and Sui and whatever if we get this Bitcoin dominated cycle. Not just even this cycle, we're talking into the next cycle. If this is still the leading Bitcoin L2 when all that capital's there and the trillions of dollars a couple of years time from now, still well positioned.
This one's a little bit of like the hype train at the moment, but Hyperliquid, this has become the number one perps trading platform. I've mentioned it here over the last couple of months as well, and it's done quite well. I think there's going to be other dApps that will build on top of this as well, besides the one that the core team has built. Just again, it's got mindshare. People are using it. It's got real revenues. It's not just, again, like these things are very different from meme coins, and you can love it or you can hate the project or the tech behind it, but it's actually got users and revenues and things that are actually happening on it. So yeah, another one that I'm keeping an eye on. I think Ton fits into the category as well. I don't know exactly where the play is for Ton here, because it feels like they've already got a very high market cap. But I think obviously there's been this whole Ton mini game type sort of resurgence, and the fact that they've got nearly 1 billion users and people have a wallet inside their app. For anyone that uses Telegram, I've got a Ton wallet that just sits inside my Telegram, and I can send money effortlessly back and forth between people. And so I do think if people are looking for ease of use, absolutely Ton is a really interesting play. I don't have a position in Ton right now, but when you're looking at fundamentals, it doesn't get much stronger than having 1 billion users on your app and then plugging in blockchain on top of it as well.
Yeah, I think X and Ton could battle it out a little bit if Elon integrates X payments and tries to make that the messaging app, the everything app, versus Ton that's got a huge community. That's become one of the places for free flowing of information that's maybe not censored a heap, and they've got that 1 billion users, wallets integrated. So yeah, that's another interesting one.
And then you go back to your old faithfuls. Like, are they? I mean, the number one lending and borrowing platform. It's probably been the most audited piece of code going around. For those that don't know, this is effectively a decentralized bank. You can lend out your assets and take loans against them. So you can keep your exposure to crypto without actually having to suck up all your liquidity. You can go and, pay your bills or pay for your groceries while still keeping your exposure to your assets. And huge revenues on all the biggest chains. Absolutely a powerhouse. And if there's ever a fee model that gets shared, then that's going to just absolutely explode. Uniswap is in the same category right here. The number one DEX, same sort of thing. If there's any sort of ever fee revenue model which ever gets turned on, oh my goodness, off they go. And just huge revenues, huge user bases.
And just today is probably one of the first days we've seen where Ethereum's up a little bit and Bitcoin's down a little bit. So people starting to go, you know what, is this got to a value area where that ratio is just so beat up now, it's worth dipping my toe into Ethereum again. And that's what we need if you're hoping to see a wider altcoin rally of the blue chips in the ETH ecosystem and wider crypto ecosystem.
And then the last one I mentioned, this is a fairly still new project, and I've mentioned it before, but Athena, again, this is like the stablecoin play, earning yield, really solid DeFi, big backers. Everyone who's an insider is all talking about it. And the only difference is with something like this versus a meme coin is that it does have lockups, it does have fundamentals, there is revenues. So it's not just going to like pump and dump like you would with some of these other projects that only have a life cycle of 1 to 2 days. And so the reason why we do this is not as an example portfolio. So this is not like what I'm trying to say for everybody to go out and purchase. But I just want you to sort of cast your mind and cast your net over the idea that not all projects are the same. Some projects have fundamentals behind them and have real revenues, real users, and you actually can invest in these things for multiple years and sit tight and you will do well. So we don't I think sometimes people get a little bit impatient with the meme coin play with like excess leverage, too many altcoins, not enough Bitcoin or fundamentally really strong coins. And so these are just some of the ones that I find interesting that I've mentioned, but there's countless others and your portfolio could look completely different from mine and still be really strong as long as it's based off of, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and then, pick your poison after that.
Yeah, completely agree. Just we'll echo what we've been saying now, and even when we talk a lot of the high net worth guys now have got a very simple portfolio, and it's really retail that have gone. And a lot of the people said, "Oh, I'm happy to go further out the risk curve," but then that has translated to really underperforming, just holding good quality stuff this cycle, which again is becoming a mature market to invest in. I know that's not what retail wants to hear, but there's still going to be lots of money to be made, but you've got to be positioned smartly versus that scattergun, everything's going to go up we've seen in past cycles.
Yeah. And again, I'm always looking for opportunities. It's the whole reason why we produce all the research in the private community. We're all here obviously trying to do well and make money as well, but risk adjusted returns are a thing, and you don't have to go and try and pick up pennies off of the railroad because you are just going to get mown down by the train half the time.
Yes, awesome. All right, mate. Well, I've enjoyed that run through, guys. We'll see you next week for our next crypto wrap up. Talk soon. Cheers.